Hey guys, I know this is an unusual time for me to be going live. Yeah, I wasn't able to do it. Hello yesterday like I wanted to. I had a lot of things that I had to take care of, so it was not possible, but I'm on here today. So we're gonna get into this conversation about realistic standards. And hey girl, thank you. We gonna get into this conversation about realistic standards because sometimes, well, I'm gonna just say this. I've noticed that a lot of people are not necessarily paying attention to what's going on with themselves and where they are in their process. So once they start dating or they have relationships with people, they wind up attracting what they don't want because they don't pay attention to what's really going on with them. So and I'm a get into that. So let's see how I want to approach this, because I took some notes because I was thinking about this, and even having a conversation with a guy that I know, and he was talking about all of the things that he did not want, right? All of the things that he did not want, but every chick he dated was everything that he did not want, right? And so I said, like, every time you date out of fear, out of what you didn't want at a point in time in your life, or something that you didn't like about somebody, or whatever hurt that you're experiencing, that's why I say you have to be cognizant of how you're feeling, how your emotions are, because then you wind up attracting what you don't want. And so in talking to him, I was just like, every time you have these thoughts, every time you say this out of your mouth, you wind up getting the exact thing that you don't want. It's just the same is true in life. When we go through life fearful because we've been through certain traumatic experiences, when we go through life living carefully, I'll say carefully, because some people may not think that they're being fearful. They just might be careful because they don't want to make mistakes, right? And then they wind up making mistakes because they were scared of making mistakes. So, and it's not really mistakes. I always say that the word mistake is really a learning lesson. Everything that you get wrong is so that you can understand how to get it right. So it's true for relationships, it's true for life. Those lessons, because they're lessons that you learn, are what they are. You're supposed to take something from it. So, your relationship didn't work out. What did you take from it? What did you learn from that relationship? You didn't get, maybe the job didn't work out. Maybe you got fired for something, or, maybe you got laid off. What did that job teach you when you were there? Everything is a learning lesson, it's a learning experience, but you have to understand where you are in the process and what do you truly want. When you replace the what you don't want with what you do want, that's when your results will be different. So I was looking at the fact that people wind up in so many messed up situations based on, unrealistic standards, based on not understanding where they are, which is still being unrealistic because you're out of touch with yourself. Hello. So you wind up in these messed up situations, messed up relationships, just messing up because you're not understanding where you are. You're not understanding what you want, and then you're speaking negativity into your life instead of saying, okay, this is what I really want. Not saying, okay, I don't want this, I don't want that, because a lot of people say that when we say it all the time when we're dating. I don't want a person that look like this. I don't want a person that make this much. I don't want a person that do this. I don't want a person that remind me of her. I don't want a person that remind me of him. We come with all of that, what we don't want. Start talking about what you do want. What are the things that you really do want? Do you want somebody that you can have a conversation with, that you can talk about life with, that you can go through life with? Do you want someone who will be your best friend and be your lover? Do you want someone, who has a spiritual basis? They believe in God. Is that important to you? We have to look at value versus all of the other nonsense, because we live in a time where we can't afford to just be with people just on how they look. We cannot afford to be with people just because they make, a good Instagram post. Like, we don't have time for that, because it's so many people that are in and out of relationships because they didn't look at what was really in front of them. So setting up what it is that you do want and be realistic about it. Not, this person got to make this amount. And I talked about this in a previous live where people, especially women, are always talking about this high value man that has to make like 6 figures and all of this other stuff. And I'm like, you sell yourself short when you looking at somebody's income, because you're not looking at the value of the person. And then you wind up with a person that you don't even want to be with in the first place. Or you wind up not being able to obtain that because most men, our African American men, majority are not making 6 figures. Majority are making less than 6 figures. But there's a big pool of men who make enough money that if you put his money with your money, y'all will be making 6 figures together. So that part. But a lot of women are not looking at that. They looking at a lifestyle that social media has created. And sometimes social media is good, and a lot of the times it's all bad, because people sell a dream. Like, you base somebody's moment, and say this is a whole life. So they show you one snippet of something they did one day. They might be in an Airbnb and it looked like they in a some type of luxurious mansion somewhere because they rented it. They drive in an expensive car because they rented it, and it's not even theirs. It's like all of this, you can sell a whole dream on social media, and then people be like, that's the life that I want. Because we wasn't having these conversations prior to the pandemic about high value, high earning, all of these things that everybody want, these Birkin bags and all of this extra nonsense that does not even make sense. If you can't give that stuff to yourself, then you should not be requiring somebody to give it to you. That's unrealistic. It's unrealistic. I'm not about to require a man to give me something that I'm not giving myself. First off, I feel like some of that stuff is a waste of money, because if you don't have a house to live in and you living with somebody, why do you need Gucci slides, Birkin bags, Chanel bags when you don't have a place of your own? Or you are living in a tremendous amount of debt, but you want all of these expensive things, and you got debt all over the place. Like, what sense does this stuff make? You have to be realistic about where you are in your process and where you want to be. And a lot of people are not self-reflecting because they're too busy chasing what looks good. And what looks good is not working for real life. That's why you have so many people having mental struggles, because they're too busy chasing something that's not real. You have so many people in toxic relationships because they're chasing things that are not real. You can have a good looking woman and she may check a lot of the boxes, but she ain't gonna check every box. You might have a good looking guy, maybe, that check all the boxes in a lot of areas, and may not check a couple boxes in another area. But if they check most of your boxes, then why aren't you dating those people? And when I say check your boxes, I'm starting with your value system. What at your core do you need from your partner? What at your core do you need from a relationship? This is the problem. People are not dating for the core values. They're dating for the look. I don't want to date somebody because they look good. Like, that's like dating a mannequin. Because they look good. So they look good. So I'm going to just date somebody because they face look good in my picture. But in real life, we living in hell. I don't want that. And I don't think nobody else should want that either. That's why I have these conversations. People have to have realistic expectations, but you also have to have realistic standards. If somebody don't check your boxes, then baby, move on. Don't sit there thinking about and hoping that they're gonna check these boxes. They're not. Because once you marry them, you're going to be tied to that person for life. So the stuff that they do while you're dating, you really have to pay attention to that. How they treat their parents, the friends that they keep, the stuff that flows out of their mouth. When you're talking to them about things that are important to you, do they use that stuff against you? Like, can you really tell them your innermost thoughts and secrets and all of that stuff? And then when you get in an argument with them, are they spewing that out? Like, that part. Do they have habits that you can live with? Are they alcoholics? Like, are they drug addicts? Are they, do they have like porn addictions? Can you live with that? Be realistic about what you can live with, not about everybody else, because your relationship with somebody is behind closed doors. You have to live with that person behind closed doors. So can you live with that? Not the rest of the world, you. If you can't live with that for the next 20 to 30 years, keep it moving. And some things are fixable. Like, if a person is really willing to put in work with you, then certain things are fixable. But don't get into a relationship thinking about what is fixable. Get into the relationship with a goal of, we can build X, Y, and Z. This is the person that I can see in my future, where we can accomplish so many things together. Have a goal for the relationship. If you are dating, if you're a person that don't want to get married, then date however you want to. Don't be out here hurting people though. But date however you want to. If you want to date and go from person to person, that's your business. Just make sure that the people that you are going from person to person with understand that you just dated and you don't plan on getting married. Be clear with that, because it will stop a whole lot of confusion, a whole lot of drama. Be realistic with where you are. So if you just want to smash, you got to tell whoever you trying to smash that you just want to smash. You ain't trying to be in no relationship. You ain't trying to be tied down. Marriage is not in the future. Say that. But if you are wanting a relationship, then date with a purpose of wanting a relationship. Of course, everybody that you come across is not going to be relationship worthy, but decide that in the first couple months. I wouldn't even say couple months. First 2 dates. I'm the first 2 dates person. After that second date, I'll be like, peace out. Because I am not dealing with nonsense. So even in a previous live, I talked about how the first date really should be like a coffee shop date. And I know that people was like, what? Coffee shop? Because I don't know if I like you. you don't know if you like me. And we have to see whether or not we gel well. If we gel well, then after the first date, then we can go on to a second date and maybe make that one a little bit more elaborate than the first. But I am not a person that thinks that you should drag things out. Now, in a relationship, I think that sometimes, and I'll just say this, put in the work. When you're in a relationship and you say that you committed to this person, then go all in. Go all in. Both of you go all in. If this couple's watching this, hello. If this couple's watching this, go all in on both sides. And when I say all in, I mean give it your 100% all. So giving that person your attention, from the text messages to the I want to see yous to the let's, spend time together, be spontaneous, do for one another. Like, whatever you want out of a relationship, you got to be willing to give that. You can't just be one-sided with it. And a lot of people hearing lately, I've been hearing that people just be wanting something, but then they don't do nothing. And there are people, men and women, that have complained about that. Like, they put in the effort and then realize that the person just there for the ride. So you might get that, but be clear on what you want and don't let up on that when it comes to being basically that whole thing being reciprocated, whatever it is. If you bringing her flowers every day and she's just acting like, oh, whatever, and then she doesn't do not a one thing, like if coffee is your favorite thing and she don't bring you coffee, or whatever the case may be, she's just not reciprocating it. You text her, tell her how you feel, and then she's not texting you back you with the same energy. Energy match energy is what you all really need to be paying attention to. But the first thing that I would say is, before you go into a situation, a dating relationship or whatever relationship it may be, make sure that you are healed from previous relationships. Make sure that you are in a good mental space, a good heart space, because when you're not in that, you won't see a person for who they are. You won't receive them or be receptive to the love that they give you, because you are in a negative space. And you wind up, a lot of times when we're in negative spaces, because I am guilty of this in my past, like when I was in a negative space, I attracted some good guys, but I wasn't in a good space. So I did some hurting, and this is why I had these conversations, because I know the type of stuff that I did years ago, and I know that it caused some hurt for some people, and I talked about that before, and I had to double back and apologize once I realized what I had done. Even when they came back and said, hey, you hurt me in this type of way. And it's something to be said when a man can actually say out of his mouth that you hurt my feelings. And I was like, in my head, like, I thought, guys didn't really have real feelings like that, even though, I've had male friends since I was young. And most times guys let stuff roll off, but deep down inside, they be feeling it. Like, they be feeling it. And I had an ex to say, you really hurt me. Like, I thought that I wanted, to be with you forever, but you wasn't on that. And I was just like, well, I didn't know that that's where your head was. You never said anything until you asked me out the blue, and I'm looking like, how did we get here? I wasn't ready. So at that time, no, I wasn't ready to get married. I was at a place where I was just like, I'm enjoying not having to be bound in my mind, because I had the wrong perception of marriage. It felt like a sentence back then. That was like 12 years ago or something. Even though I was engaged, but the reason why I didn't go through with them, and I talked about this before, you all can go on my YouTube channel, Crown Convos with Tiana Nichelle, and you will see that I talked about that in previous dating conversations. I go into details about the place that I was at, but for an ex to say, you hurt me because I thought we was at this place, and I wasn't at that place, he was at that place. And so it happens. I apologize, and we talked about it, and we moved past it, and we good. But at the same time, it made me realize that men are more sensitive than we know. So externally they are strong, but emotionally they're not as strong. They take a lot of things to heart, and we really as women have to be a little bit more understanding when it comes to their emotions, because the world has done enough to tell them not to show their emotions. Society has done enough to tell them, you know, you got the man up. Parents have said it, they mamas done said it, daddies, you know, whoever. Man up is what they've been told their whole entire life. And then we get with them, and then we like, well, why you not talking? Why you feel like this? Or why you being so whatever you fill in that blank. But it's because their whole lives they've been told not to show emotion. And then there's times when they're vulnerable in their relationships, and they wind up, we as women will use that stuff against them. I mean, a lot of women in the past, I don't know if I actually did that, because I've tried hard in my life not to be that person that uses somebody's pain against them in an argument, because I wouldn't want nobody to do that to me. So that I don't like triggering people in that way. So I'm usually mindful of that part of it. But a lot of a lot of women I have known have used things that guys have told them in secret against them in an argument, which makes a man not even open up after that. Once you have done that, it's done. Like, the deed is done, and he won't open up. So guys are more fragile in the emotions department. And that's something, because women are actually stronger in the emotional department. We might be called emotional, but that's how God made us. God made us to feel our emotions, so that when something happens, we can be in that emotional space and say, okay, you know, this is what, you know, is going on. We process it, and we go. Like, it's go time for us when it comes to that type of a situation. Like, we are able to find strength in those emotions, you know, quote unquote man up, like everybody says, and get through a situation. So where we might not have the physical strength, but we definitely have the emotional strength, and that's how God made us. So males have the physical strength, and they're a little bit more fragile in the in the emotional department, and we are stronger in the emotional department, but we have less strength than they do in the physical department. So that is actually why we need one another. And the conversation that I actually had last Thursday, which that live was actually cut short due to the whole, my signal was like horrible. Like I was downtown and my signal was like garbage. So it wound up going out halfway through the live. That's why the live wasn't posted, but I had the live. But when I talked about how we need each other, we really need each other. Men need women and women need men. You need a partner to do life with. You need somebody that's strong where you are weak, and vice versa. Like we need that. So when it comes to relationships, you must be intentional about what you want so that you're not attracting the what you don't want. You must be in a good heart space. And when I say in a good heart space, it's so that your heart can be open to whatever this new adventure is. So the first thing that I said when I started this live is that's why healing is important, so that you can renew your mind, renew your heart. But two, so that you can be open to new experiences and you're not making a comparison of what worked versus what didn't work. And I know that in the past I was guilty of that. I was guilty of looking at and making comparisons between the person that I'm with versus my ex. Or certain situations, like maybe, you know, I had more fun with this ex, you know, versus the person that I'm with. Maybe they're a little bit more serious, you know. And for me, in my relationships, I realized that what works for me is somebody that's not as serious as I can be. I need somebody that can have fun, because I have silly moments, and I need somebody to go with it. Like I might have a moment of insanity and I want to be silly, and a serious person will look at you like, well, what in the heck are you doing? I ain't got time for that. And the way that my life is set up now, I'm doing things differently. So I embrace experiences. I embrace things that are different. I'm okay with different. I'm okay with that. How I look at things are totally different, but I actually have done the work, and this is why I talk about doing the work. So I've done the work to heal myself in different areas and all of that kind of stuff. So that is what is important when you're looking for a partner, or you're looking to date. You have to be healed within yourself. The other thing that I would say is focus on the value of the person rather than devaluing the person. That is something that I have noticed, that people are looking at other people as if they are a to-do list or a scorecard, or however you want to put it. And they're like, oh, well, if you do this, it's somebody else that does this, so what else you got? Okay, well, he does this, but I had 5 guys that did X, Y, and Z, so what else you bring in? Or whatever. Like, hello. A lot of people are devaluing other people, but then want to be in relationship with somebody. Like, how do you do that? Like, even when I was watching, I think it's the Pivot podcast, and the guy was talking about that whole Russell. He was saying Russell is a simp and this, that, and the other. And he talked about Sierra and how Sierra was with Future, and how could she go from Future to Russell and all of this different stuff. And I was just like, maybe because she changed her mindset. So we not allowed to change. We not allowed to be different. We have to stay the same, want the same. That's the problem with a lot of people. A lot of people are staying the same and wanting the same thing from when they was 16, 17 years old, and it don't work in the grown context. A woman wanting a bad boy from 15, 16, 17 years old, and that same context don't work at 37, 40, 50 years old. Like, it don't. It don't. Or a man wanting the, I don't know, the most popular girl. It's like, does that actually work? Because, I mean, she was popular in high school, but we way past high school. So what is she now? Like, what's she doing now with life? Like, that part. Is she a good person? Why aren't we looking at, okay, are these people good people? And then how do they show up and love us? That part. Because you will put somebody else's showing up to love you down because you comparing it to what somebody else did. Like, that's nonsense. Because you can't possibly love someone when you're constantly making a comparison. That's what trips a lot of people up in their relationships, is the constant comparisons. Stop doing that, because then you put unrealistic expectations on a person that don't know nothing about who you done dated before. You know, they don't know nothing about that. So we got to change our mindsets around a lot of different things, because we are putting unrealistic expectations on other people and creating these unrealistic expectations of the person that we want. So we want somebody that makes all of this money. We want them to already come with all of these different already made things. So you want a prepackaged man or a prepackaged woman. That's basically what you're saying. And for the women, I'm going to say this. For the people that date married people, I'm not just going to say women, because men date married people. You don't know what type of hell people done been through in order to have harmony within their relationship. Like, if you see a married man and he look like he got it together, 9 times out of 10, his wife was battling with him for him to get it together. If you see a married woman who's got it all together, 9 times out of 10, her husband was battling with her to get it together. So you don't see the struggle that the couple goes through. You looking at the end of their process or the middle of their process. You're not looking at what it took for them to get to that point. What, you know, struggles they had to go through, how they had to blend their lives together, what they had to let go of, what they had to sacrifice. When I tell you, love in relationships is a sacrifice, it really is. You wind up losing a part of yourself, and people will say, no, don't lose yourself, but you will lose a part of yourself. But a lot of times it's the part that probably should have been lost anyway. It's the part that was selfish, that only thought about you, that was the you that was in your single season when you only had to worry about you and you didn't have to think about nobody else and their feelings. That part. It's a lot of nonsense that's going on. But at the same time, if this stuff is happening in the constraints of dating, then it's going to trickle down to when you get married. Like, if you still think this way, still function this way, how can a marriage actually thrive when you are having unrealistic expectations and acting like you would in your single season? How can you become one with somebody if you are only looking at what they can offer you, as in like it's a job offer? Like, okay, well, this is you giving me the salary, let me see these benefits. Like, no, look at their value system, look at their core system. Yeah, they you do have to look at them. So if you want them to look good, then look at that too. But don't base your decision based off of just the physical appearance, because it will jack you up every time. And then using what didn't happen in order to base your decision. That part, like, what didn't happen in this relationship, making those comparisons, it doesn't work. It doesn't work when you with somebody different. Don't put a tremendous amount of pressure on someone who you having a clean slate with, building a clean slate with. I think that it does a disservice to the relationship going forward. Even down to the sex, and I talked about this before. Men have a habit of doing this, and women do it too now, but men really have a habit of this. They will compare all of the people that they've been with. When they're with one person, they expect this person to be all of the people that they've been with, because they've had all these different experiences. It's not possible. That's why people need to have a conversation about what it is that they want when it comes to sex. Like, what it is that they like. Have a real conversation. If you're going to be in a relationship with somebody, or if you being sexual with somebody, have that real conversation. This is what I like. And if you don't know, then learn your body. Learn what your body does and what your body likes. There's a person that actually deals with the whole I forgot the name of her business, but Dr. Harita McDowell talks about having sex talks. So you can look her up on Instagram. She's there. But having them sex talks with your partner is necessary, because then you can understand what it is they like and give them more of it in that regard. Yeah, like, people don't want to have them conversations because they think, and I'm gonna say that there are a lot of men that think that they be doing like a banging job. From the conversations that I had, and I'd be like, well, how you know what that woman liked? Even I was watching oh my goodness, I was just watching something, and they were talking about, oh, was it DJ Envy? I think it was DJ Envy, where he wasn't, yeah, DJ Envy, where he wasn't giving his wife orgasms and all of this other stuff, and, you know, not really pleasing her, because he thought what he was doing was perfectly fine. He never asked what she wanted or how she felt. You gotta have them conversations. If you are having sex, or if you are married, have them conversations. Like, it's necessary in order to keep it spicy, keep it together, all of those kind of things. But also have a conversation about the goals. We need to start talking about, what is the goal of this? What are we doing here? If we're in a relationship, okay, what do we plan on doing in the next 5 years with this relationship? Now, I'm not saying talk about marriage when you first get with somebody. Like, I'm not saying that, because I will tell you, when a man has talked about marriage, hello with me out the gate, I've had a guy ask me about marriage the first date. And the first day he was like, God told him that I was supposed to be his wife, and that was the last date we had. Because I don't play those games. I don't play them games. Because people will use that as a tool of manipulation. You cannot get if you ain't get the memo, don't fall for it. Do not fall for it. Because a lot of women in church get caught up in that. And I want to have that conversation. I actually want to have a conversation with women who grew up in church and how their dating experiences have been. And what's missing, because a lot of women that grew up in church are not getting the results that women who have not grown up in church, hello, are having. And it looks like more women who haven't been in church are the ones getting married versus the ones that have been in church. And there's something to that. I mean, church doesn't talk about dating, and church doesn't go into the that whole process of dating, because church don't really believe in dating. They believe you meet somebody and you just go ahead and, you know, get married because you don't want them fornicating now. But it's unrealistic. Like, it's so unrealistic. How can somebody get married and be successful in their marriage if they don't even know what to look for, what to do? That, you know, people might come in with their heart broken from a previous relationship. They don't talk about that stuff. We need to have this conversation. We need to have a church girls conversation, because the ones that were like really heavy in church, a lot of them have experienced more opposition with, or more negative dating experiences than ones who weren't totally sold out, you know, in the church. And so I do want to have that conversation, because it does not allow for you to understand that both of you have to be on the same page, where I know they say, you know, unequally yoked and stuff like that, but what is it really? It's more than just, okay, you both believing in God. Do you all have a core value system that you share? Do you all have experiences that, you know, both negative and positive, that you all can look at and say, you know what, okay, this is your experience, this is my experience, you know, I'm sorry for what you've experienced, and then work through that stuff, because everybody got ish. Everybody. And because everybody got ish and they don't want to work out the ish, is why a lot of these relationships is going left. Because they too busy worried about the wrong stuff. Worried about how your pictures look on Instagram or Facebook, and you not invested into the relationship. Like, how can you want a relationship? Because a lot of people, I know that, because I'm 37, and it's a lot of people that's getting married left and right. And I think that it's a time clock thing that's ticking in a lot of people's minds, because they're like, you know, I'm not married, or I didn't have kids, or I didn't do this. So people are freaking out. That's, I just said, don't enter no relationship in fear, because you're going to attract some crazy when you enter relationships out of fear, out of hurt, out of all the things negative. You're going to attract crazy. But I just, oh Lord, I want to have these real conversations. I need to really be real. Like, we really need to have real conversations, because people is out here doing stuff off the whim because they don't want to be alone. They fear that they not gonna find nobody if they don't get with this person. You know, that was one of the things that I was never scared of, was whether or not I was going to find somebody. Like, that was never a fear, because I felt like there's a lot of somebodies. Like, there's a lot of men in the world. I said this before, I never believed that it was a male shortage. Like, it's not a shortage. They out here. But when you start talking about 6 figures, they gotta look like this, they need to have all of this, he gotta be 6 feet tall, then your the pool that was real big went from real big to, you said because you girl. No, but that was never a thing for me, because I didn't put a cap on what somebody made. It was about, does they soul match my soul? Like, do we vibe well together? And I wasn't spiritual. Like, I didn't have no relationship with God. So that was not a part of anything that I was trying to do while dating, like in my past. But it was just like, okay, we vibe well. That's how I felt back then. You know, we had good conversation. I've always been a conversationalist, always. So when I'm in a relationship, I want to talk. I may not talk about my feelings. Now I do, but back then I didn't. I ain't talk about my feelings at all. But it was always, do we vibe well together? Can we have those conversations, those real deep conversations about life? You know, can we talk about politics without killing each other? You know, I've been that person. So for me, those were things that it was important. I didn't care how tall he was. Negroes didn't have to be tall. I dated guys that was shorter than me. I dated guys that was taller than me. Now, I did have a preference on whether I liked, you know, a chocolate versus a light man. I would take the chocolate for 500 bob. You know, I always liked me a chocolate brother. But, you know, in recent years, I've decided to get out of that and date, you know, and not discriminate on the complexion. Even though I still have a low-key chocolate preference, but I'll date a caramel, maybe a light skin. But just to see, because it's more than what somebody looks like for me at this point. Do we have a spiritual connection is where I'm at with it. Do our values match? Can we build together? What are the goals that we have for ourselves individually? And what goals will we have for ourselves collectively? Like, that's where my head is at this point in my life. My head wasn't there before. But I think those are key things that people should start thinking about when they enter dating relationships. But at the basis of that, you got to heal yourself. You have to, all them other people that you dated, and I always say this, don't bring your past relationships or situationships into your current, because you're going to jack it up from the onset, because nobody can compete with your past. Not possible. Nobody can compete with what you didn't get, what you didn't have, what they did, you know, all of the pain that was inflicted. Nobody can compete with that. If the person that you with did not inflict that on you, then don't bring it to them. You can only bring it to them in a, I feel some type of way about, you know, what I've been through, right? You can bring it to them as in, I need to confide in you type of thing. But don't bring it to them in a, you acting just like, you know, that nigga Tommy or whoever it is. I don't know. You know, you can't come like that. Even men do the same thing. Men will do the same thing. They will take an ex that hurt them in first grade and compare the first grade ex to all of the women. Stop doing that. You cannot compare somebody that caused hurt to you to somebody that never hurt you in the first place. How can you truly fall in love if you're not allowing yourself to fall in love? That part. Or how can you fully give somebody a chance if there's no room to actually give someone a chance? It's not possible. So people are not being realistic about where they are. If you want love, then you have to release what was in your past. You have to let go of what was in your past. You have to seek help for what was in your past and work through it. Because when you experience a healthy love, that healthy love will make you feel some type of way because you've never experienced it. But it will be something that you will want to hold on to, that part. And I want everybody to have healthy love experiences. I want that. Like, I want people to be healthy. That's the reason why I had these conversations too. Because I want people to be better. I want people to be healthier. I want people to experience life differently. Because I know from my own experiences in the past, like, I done been through some ish. And we gonna have a laugh, and we gonna get real candid with it. We gonna get real funky with it. The person that you see is not the person that I was before. And now I say this because people need to know where you've been. in order to understand where you're coming from. Because a lot of times people just see what you present and think you ain't been through nothing. But no, the reason I'm having these conversations is because to bring awareness. And I want so much more for other people. But I know that the stuff that I went through, it's going to help somebody else. I have helped other people through the stuff that I have been through counseling them, through coaching them, through mentoring them. I have done that. But to me, it's necessary, because in order for you to understand that your pain, your process is not just for you, it's actually to help someone else. And you can help someone else once you have healed yourself to a place where you can talk about it. If you can't talk about what you've been through, you ain't healed. You not. If you gotta hide what you done been through, you ain't ready. You ain't ready to talk about it. You ain't ready to, no, you're not ready. So you gotta get that part together. So I want to do another live. I actually want to talk about the church girls. I want to have that conversation because I realized that a lot of them have not had great dating experiences. And I want to have that candid conversation even with guys, because I think that church girls are given unrealistic expectations of dating because they're not told anything. So I want to have this conversation. I'm gonna see, maybe I'll do it on Saturday. Maybe I'll do it Saturday morning, have a early Saturday morning, conversation, and just talk about this candidly. But I'm also working on doing a masterclass for healing, and it's called the release. It's called the release because we got to release some things in order to receive happiness, in order to receive the things that we want, in order to have the relationships we want. We have to release some of that old-ish, that stuff from when we was kids, what mama daddy didn't do, what our first boyfriend did, that first girlfriend, whoever it is. You got to release that. If love is what you seek, if that is your goal, then you have to know what that looks like. And first, it starts with you loving on yourself enough to get healed. That's where you start. You start with self. When you start with self, everything else will fall in line. So you have to be intentional about where you are, what you want, and what your process needs to be. You really have to get real with yourself. And I know that sounds really crazy, but I be getting real with myself. Like, I be like, girl, you did X, Y, and Z. If you want this, then why did you do that? Okay, we got to tweak some stuff, because we tripping. We tripping out here. Get it together, girl. Get it together. I'm trying to talk to myself. But it helps me keep myself in order, and it helps me to work on some things. So working on yourself is a constant thing. I don't want people to think that you just do something, you just go to a counselor, because some people go to counseling and counseling don't work for them. Some people go through all of these different things and it don't work for them. So you got to figure out what works for you, but at the same time, you have to want it. You have to want your mind to be renewed. You have to want your heart to be healed, and you got to want something different from what you've seen. And in order to have that, you got to release all of the fear, all of the hurt, all of the pain that you experienced up until now. You got to know that those experiences were to teach you something about yourself, and to teach you, okay, what you like and what you don't like. To teach you what you need and what you don't need. Everything is a lesson. And then to go forward saying, okay, you know what, this was the lesson. Let me let me carve out what I do want. Let me sit down with myself and see where I have been toxic, what I have done. Let me sit down and get down to the real of me. Do you know yourself? Do I know myself? Like, do you know yourself as well as you think you know yourself? Probably not. Because a lot of people don't get real with themselves and be like, child, I did X, Y, and Z. That was jacked up. Like, I'll admit, I was jacked up. I done said it before. The stuff that I did prior to 5 years ago, okay? I was jacked up. But I wanted to be different. I wanted to be a different version of myself. Is the reason why I constantly do self-reflection, constantly do things to keep myself in check, constantly work on me. Because working on you is a constant work. It's the same thing as eating healthy. You got to constantly do it. You know, going to the gym. Not a gym rat, but, you know, I take walks. Take my walks. Everything is work. But in order to have something healthy, in order to be healthy in every way possible, it starts internally. So you got to fix that. So for those that want something different, you ready to do something different, the Release Masterclass is coming next month. And I'll give you all details later on that, but I'm just letting y'all know the release is coming, baby. So that's healing from your trauma, from your pain, from all of that. And we're gonna get real about a whole lot of stuff. We're gonna talk about a whole lot of stuff. So yes, I thank you all for joining us live. You know, I thank you all every week for tuning in. And then let me know what you all want to talk about. Let me know what topics you all want to tap on. But Saturday, I do want to talk about church girls and dating. We're gonna get into it on Saturday. So I will see you Saturday morning. Bye.